In 476 AD, a barbarian named Odoacer walked into the imperial palace in Ravenna and handed the last Roman emperor an abdication document. The emperor, a teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus, signed without resistance. No final battle, no heroic last stand, just two teenagers in a palace, and 500 years of the greatest civilization on Earth ending with a signature. The most powerful empire in human history was over. But here's the question nobody asks. How does an empire that controlled 60 million people and fielded the most disciplined army the world had ever seen end like that? Quietly, politely, with a teenager signing a piece of paper. The answer should terrify every one of us alive today. At its height, Rome was something the world had never seen. By the 2nd century AD, the empire stretched from the beaches of Scotland to the deserts of Mesopotamia. Over 250,000 miles of Roman roads connected every corner of the known world. Roman aqueducts delivered clean running water to cities across 3 continents. Roman law forms the backbone of legal systems governing billions of people today. Walk into any courthouse, any parliament building, any university in the Western world, and you are standing inside Rome's shadow. The man who oversaw its greatest peak, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, philosopher and soldier, the closest thing to Plato's philosopher king the ancient world ever produced, died in 180 AD. And almost immediately, everything began to go wrong. Between 235 and 284 AD, the crisis of the 3rd century, Rome had 26 emperors in 50 years. Most were military commanders who seized power by force and were killed by the next man who wanted the throne. The average reign lasted less than 2 years. Every time a new emperor took power, he rewarded the soldiers who put him there. Military spending exploded. Emperors debased the currency until the denarius lost 95% of its value in a single generation. Inflation wiped out savings. The merchant class that had been the backbone of Roman prosperity disappeared within a generation. Political instability does not stay political. It becomes economic. Economic collapse becomes social collapse. Rome was about to learn this the hard way. Rome survived, barely, thanks to Emperor Diocletian, who stabilized the empire by splitting it in 2. The eastern half got the richer provinces. The western half got the harder job. For centuries, Rome had managed its barbarian neighbors brilliantly. Military force to hold the line, integration to absorb the best of what they offered. Hundreds of thousands of Germanic warriors served in the Roman army. One, Stilicho, son of a Vandal father, became the most powerful general in the Western Empire and spent his career defending Rome from the very people he came from. This was Rome at its best, strong enough to turn its enemies into its greatest soldiers. But by the late 4th century, that system was cracking. Then the Huns arrived. In the 372nd AD, nomadic warriors from Central Asia swept westward with a ferocity no one had seen, driving everything before them into Roman territory. The Visigoths, nearly 100,000 refugees, crossed the Danube in 376 AD. Roman officials were corrupt and cruel. They withheld food and sold Visigoth children into slavery in exchange for dog meat. 2 years later, the Visigoths revolted. At the Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD, they annihilated a Roman army and killed Emperor Valens, one of the only emperors to die in battle. Rome never fully recovered, not because of the battle itself, but because of what it revealed. The empire could no longer defend its own borders or trust its own army. What followed was a slow erosion of everything that had made Rome function. Tax revenues fell. The government raised taxes until farmers abandoned their fields. Roads went unrepaired. Cities shrank. The shared identity of being Roman quietly faded. The Western Empire did not fall because its enemies were stronger. The barbarians had always been there. It fell because the institutions that made Rome capable of managing them had been allowed to rot. By the time Odoacer walked into that palace in 476 AD, most people barely noticed. The emperor had been irrelevant for decades. Removing him changed almost nothing, because there was almost nothing left to remove. The Eastern Empire, Byzantium, chose differently. It maintained stronger institutions, kept its currency stable, and integrated its population more effectively. It survived for nearly 1,000 more years, the last Roman emperor dying in battle on the walls of Constantinople in 1453, defending his city to the end in a way Romulus Augustulus never had to. The difference was not luck. It was the repeated, deliberate choice to maintain the things that made civilization possible, even when it was expensive, even when it was hard. Historians have identified over 200 theories for why Rome fell: climate change, economic mismanagement, military overextension, political dysfunction. All contain truth, but the deeper answer is simpler. Rome fell because of compounding failures, each making the next one worse. A weakened military cost more. Higher costs raised taxes. Higher taxes broke the economy. A broken economy reduced revenue. Less revenue weakened the military further. Around and around for 200 years until there was nothing left. This is what civilizational collapse looks like. Not one catastrophic moment. A slow, invisible unraveling that feels manageable at every step, until suddenly it isn't. The Roman Empire built roads that have lasted 2,000 years. It wrote laws that govern billions today, and it still fell. Not because it lacked the strength to survive, but because the people inside it consistently chose what was easy over what was necessary. Chose personal gain over collective responsibility, chose to hollow out the institutions that held everything together rather than pay the cost of maintaining them. The fall of Rome is not a history lesson. It is a warning, the most detailed, most documented warning in human history. And the question it leaves behind is not complicated. Are we learning from it? Or are we just watching it happen again?